Warm welcome to this lecture series on organizational behavior. We are in this chapter on interpersonal behavior at work. This is going to be the last section of this particular chapter. I'll quickly summarize what happened in the previous lectures. We defined what is interpersonal behavior and also looked at the range of interpersonal behaviors which can occur in workplace. We also looked at this concept called psychological contract and its importance in organizational context. We looked at the importance of trust in building interpersonal relationships and also different types of trust and ways to build trust in relationship. We looked at the positive social behaviors which are called as pro-social behaviors. We looked at what are the possible pro-social behaviors in workplace. We discussed about a concept called organizational citizenship behavior and how to improve such positive work behavior in organizational context. We also looked at another important aspect of interpersonal behavior in workplace, which is cooperation, and we defined what is cooperation and what is competition and how they differ from each other. We looked at the personal qualities of an individual, how they influence whether they choose to compete or cooperate. In the previous lecture, we looked at conflict management, the reasons behind why conflict happens, or the reason behind a situation becoming a conflicting situation. We looked at some of the important reasons, and many of these reasons are individual differences related reasons, which means there may not be a real reason or a real problem between two people. Most of the times it's the way we perceive the other person. We looked at different levels in which conflict can happen. So conflict can happen within an individual, between individuals, within a group, and between a group. We also looked at different types of conflict. So conflict happening because of individual differences. In simple words, I don't like you and you don't like me, or I don't like the way you approach something and you don't like the way I approach something. So those are relational conflict. Relational conflict many a times can be resolved at the individual level, but if it gets unresolved, it may become group level conflicts also. It can become conflict between two religious groups or two language groups, or between two departments and things like that. So what can organizations do to avoid relational conflict? We spoke about the importance of diversity management in workplace. The other two conflicts are usually conflicts related to the way work is approached, or the way people understand how to do a particular task, or how to plan to execute a particular task. And many times this can be resolved when there are clear-cut procedures which are available in the organization, policy documents or manuals. So all those things will help people resolve differences of opinion in terms of how to do a task and how to plan for a task, or how to share resources. Because if there's a policy document, it is very easy to get answers from that, instead of instead of finding answers after much deliberation or much argument. Okay. But the problem with organizations intervening to resolve task and process conflict is, some kind of jobs it is not possible to have clear-cut manuals written. For example, if the job involves a lot of creativity and innovation, or if it involves a lot of teamwork where a lot of give and take involves, so you cannot clearly say this is how it has to be done, or you cannot clearly say this person has to do this. Okay. And also, if there are very clear-cut manuals written, then people, when they strictly follow those manuals, they may not go beyond what is expected from them. So all those extra role performances may be restricted when when there are clear-cut manuals of who should do what and how it should be done. So it can kill creativity. But again, there is always a balance between avoiding conflict and encouraging creativity and teamwork. So it's a role of the leader to have a balanced approach where there are guidelines, there are manuals, but they don't restrict voluntary behavior and creative behavior. Okay. So this is what we saw in the previous lecture. Now we are going to talk about conflict management. Conflict management means there is a conflict and how are people managing the conflict, or how are people handling the conflict. For example, conflict between two different states in terms of water resource sharing. There is a river and two states fight to take their share from the river. They want to decide who takes more water. Okay, so this is a conflict situation. There is a situation which will lead to conflict. And how are we resolving this conflict? Okay, there is a situation which is a conflicting situation, but it's up to us to adapt a style where we resolve that conflict in a very positive manner. Okay, so you can either sit and talk with the other person, or you can take a defensive stance and fight, or you can just keep blind, both of you, keep blind towards the situation and not do anything about it. So there are different ways in which conflict can be managed, but which way a person takes or a group takes depends on many factors. Why it is important to understand these factors which affect conflict management style is, how you manage conflict is very important to resolve conflict. Okay, so if you don't, and many times people adapt a particular conflict management style without even knowing why they are doing it. Okay, so if you know some people, if you know that this problem can be resolved by talking or negotiating with the other person, you can resolve it, but you are not doing it because something makes you or something pushes you to take an aggressive stance. Okay, maybe because you feel insecure, or one party feels the other party is cheating, lack of trust, or the stakes are very high. So those factors can push people to take a certain kind of a conflict management style. And also the kind of style you take or the kind of method you adopt will decide whether you resolve the conflict or not. Okay, so it's like a chain. Okay, so there are some factors which affect which method you adopt to resolve conflict, and the method you adopt to resolve a conflict decides whether you resolve it properly or not. So that is why you need to understand the first link in this chain. Okay, the first link can have many factors. The first and foremost important factor is personality of the individual. If you remember, we saw in our earlier, one of the slides in the earlier concept, cooperation, there are people with different ways in which there are people who approach a same situation differently. You can be an equalizer, you can be collaborator, you can be a competing kind of a person. So inherently some people are more aggressive and more competitive than others. Similarly, some people are more cohesive, more collaborative in nature. So it depends on the nature of the individual also. Similarly, people who are very Machiavellianistic in nature, they tend to manipulate the other party, and that will lead to trust deficiency in conflict management. So these kind of people may change the way conflict is resolved. Okay, so that is one, personality of the individual. Situation of that, in which situation is this conflict happening. Okay, for example, if these two parties already have a history of enmity, okay, for example, two countries, they already have problems because of earlier reasons, because the way these countries are formed, or the way previously the leaders have handled earlier situations. So there is a history. Okay, so that history can affect the way new conflicts are resolved. So there is a history of mistrust between two parties, so you don't trust the other party in the new situation also. Okay, so the situation, strength of the other party. So if the other party is very powerful, one party may become defensive. Okay, so one party will feel the other party might manipulate us, or other way around. One party is like very powerful, so the powerful party may feel it's very easy to squeeze the other person who is not powerful. Okay, so strength of the parties make a huge difference. In fact, in an ideal situation, both the parties should have equal power. When there is power disparity, that can lead to mistrust between two parties. Stakes involved. If the stake is very, very high. Stake means how much it will affect you. Okay. For example, water sharing, especially during summers, water sharing becomes a very huge crisis. Okay, a very huge issue of conflict between two parties. Okay, between two states or between two countries. On the other hand, when there is abundance of water, there is enough rain, people may not fight for sharing water resources. Okay, so what is the stake? If I don't get enough water, many people will suffer because of drought, or crops will fail, farmers will suffer. So obviously I will fight for more water. Okay, let's say if there is abundance water, enough rain, I may not even worry about whether the other party gives me water or not. Okay, so stakes involved. Attitude means how do I look at the situation? Do I look at it as a win-win situation, or do I look at it as I should win, the other party should lose? So all those factors play an important role. Okay. There are also different conflict handling styles. The previous slide we spoke about what are the factors which affect the way you handle conflict. So the way you handle conflict is called conflict management style in which, or the approach you follow to handle a conflict. There are different approaches. Primarily we classify them as 5 different approaches: competing approach, accommodating approach, collaborating approach, compromising approach, and avoiding approach. So there is one logic behind this classification. We'll look at the logic. Okay, so the logic is, there are 2 things. One, I give importance to me. Okay, the other way to look at it is I give importance to the other person. Okay, so in other words, if I give more importance to me, then it means I should win. Okay, if I give more importance to others, it is the other person should win. Okay, so let's say you don't give importance to you, and also you don't give importance to the other person. Okay, which is the bottommost left quadrant, which is avoiding. So there is a conflict, you don't actually think you should win, and you also don't worry about whether the other person should win. So in other words, you don't really worry about the problem, so you avoid the problem, you avoid the conflict. Okay, for example, you are somebody has you bought a new stationery, your colleague took it for some time. You got a pen or you got a stapler, and your colleague took the stapler from you. Okay, and he didn't return it back. And this is not the first time. Many situations he has taken stationery from you and he has not returned it back. Okay, so what will you do? You go and ask him, or would you keep quiet, or would you fight with him? What will you do? If you think it's not very important, this is a silly thing, I don't miss those staplers, anyway office is giving it for free. Okay, we get it for free in the office. Similarly, you don't actually worry about what he is doing. That person is not an important person. The problem is a small problem, so you avoid it. Okay, you avoid raising that issue. So this is avoiding style. But there are some cases people avoid even if the problem is big. Okay, they'll think just leave it, why to fight? Okay, this is avoiding style. But what is the problem in avoiding? Maybe for small things you can avoid the problem or avoid the conflict, okay, because unnecessarily you don't have to raise an issue. This is like sportsmanship, small inconvenience, you don't really need to fight for your rights, okay. But sometimes if the problem is really big, you're avoiding it because you are scared what will happen. You're not even confronting it, okay. For example, in a very close relationship, your friend has done something you don't like, but you don't want to confront it because you feel this relationship will break, okay. You not even raising this issue within yourself also. You're trying to suppress this conflict within you because you don't like what your close friend has done, okay. So these kind of things is also avoiding. But if you avoid like this, it can lead to future problems. How many times can you avoid resolving the conflict? This is like some garbage which you are not disposing. You are like keeping it in a locker room without even clearing it. Beyond a point, what will happen? It will start stinking, okay. So avoiding, for some problems it is okay, but for important problems we should not avoid conflict, okay. You should try to resolve the conflict, okay. But many times people avoid conflict because it's the easiest thing to do, just brush it under the carpet, okay. But in long run, for important problems you should not do it because it will damage the relationship. It will also damage your self-esteem. The next approach is, you think you are important but the other person is not important, or you think you should win, the other person should not win, which is competing approach, okay. So you feel, no, I should get fair treatment, I should get a better stake, or I should get the majority of the resources, I don't care about others, I should win, the other person should lose, okay, which is competing approach. The problem with competing approach is you will gain enemies, okay. So if you keep winning at the cost of somebody else winning, people will start hating you. They will also see you as competitor. If you see somebody else as a competitor, they will also perceive you as a competitor. The problem with many people perceiving you as a competitor is, in workplace you cannot have many competitors. You should also have collaborators, okay. And if you want collaborators, you should collaborate with people. So you should look for win-win approach. But sometimes competing is difficult to avoid, because if you clearly know you are right, the other person is wrong, you clearly know you deserve more than the other person because the other person is not contributing, the other person has no right to claim this stake and you have every right to claim this stake, then you can compete. And in situations where you have to assert your authority, you need to show that, no, I am right and you are wrong. I mean, it can be real also. I mean, in reality also you are right and they are wrong. In those situations, it is important to compete. But on the other hand, if you keep competing with everyone, you will have more enemies in your workplace. Other way around of it is accommodating, where you let the other person win and you lose, okay. You let other person take more stakes, you let the other person take more resources, and you give away your rights and resources. When will we do it? When the other person is very powerful. If it is your boss is always right. You cannot keep arguing with him or her, okay. So in those situations we do that, but again it is not right to do it in long run, because if you let the other person win, they will take advantage of your humbleness, okay. They will think you are a weak person, so they'll keep exploiting you, they'll keep manipulating you, okay. They will think you are a soft target, okay. So again, you should not do it in all situations. Like competing, if you keep competing also, you should not do in all situations. You should do it in some situations, you are right. Similarly, accommodating also, you should not keep doing it in all situations. You should do it in situations where it is appropriate. For example, some situations it's okay to let it go. let the other person win, because in longer run, in a very in a very holistic way, losing at that situation is better. Okay, so this is like winning the war to or losing the war to win the battle, something like that. You momentarily lose so that in a larger frame of things, in the larger scheme of things, you win in long run. Okay, so you should be very wise to use this accommodating, when to lose and let the other person win, so that you have advantage in future. Okay, so you have to do it very wisely, accommodating. The other approach, ideal approach, is collaborating, which is both the parties win. So you try to find out a solution where both of us get the right stakes, or both of us get what they want. But many a times we feel if one person wins, the other person should lose. Okay, is it true in any competition one person wins and another person loses, or any competition or conflict one person is right, one person is wrong? No, not necessarily. Maybe both people are right, both the parties are right, both the parties are appropriate in the way they handle that problem. Okay, but the only thing is, you don't understand, or you don't look at the problem from the other person's perspective. Okay, so if you start looking at things from other person's point of view, then there are more chances that collaboration will happen. You may think, okay, I am willing to collaborate, but the other person is not willing to collaborate. What should I do? See, unless and until we go with an open arms, others will not come and help you. Okay, so 2-3 times, even if they exploit you, if they understand, no, this person genuinely wants everybody to win, maybe there is a chance that they will also collaborate in long run. Okay, so if you take a collaborative approach, the other person doesn't take that approach, it becomes accommodating. You are willing to help, but the other person is not willing to help, they manipulate you, so it becomes accommodating. But over a period of time, if you keep doing it, people understand it is not helping. This person is genuinely interested to win, all of us to win, so they will also collaborate. In fact, in games theory, win-win, if both party wins, or if the both parties comes up with this approach of collaborating, everybody will benefit. Okay, but usually people see it as win-lose situation. One person loses and one person wins, but the sum is zero. It's called zero-sum game, which means one person winning, one person losing. The total is, both cancels out and there is zero. But in collaborating, both people wins, the sum is positive. Okay, in competing, everybody competes, everybody fights, everybody loses. Okay, but for collaborating, you need to have patience, you need to have an open approach, you need to trust. There is high level of risk involved. You should be willing to take that risk. Okay, and you should be creative enough to find a solution where everybody can win. So it's a very difficult state to achieve, but if you achieve that state, it will benefit everybody in the organization. Okay, it's a very ideal state. There's another style which is compromising. Compromising means you give half and I'll give half. Okay, it sounds good, but the problem with both people compromising is both of them are unhappy. Okay, so both of them feel that they have lost something. So it is not collaborating. Compromising is I win half and you win half, or I lose half and you lose half. So which is like both of us have lost something. Okay, so many times what happens is people, when they want to collaborate, they are not able to find innovative solutions so that both party wins. They end up being compromising. Okay, compromising is okay, it's better than avoiding or competing in long run, but beyond a point, compromising will create dissatisfaction among all the parties who are in the conflict. Okay, so ideally collaboration is the best. If it is not possible, at least compromise. And also each of these styles are appropriate depending on the situation. It's not like one style is always best. Collaborating is always best, but reaching it is difficult. Among other styles, you need to adopt a certain style depending on the situation, depending on how much time you have, how much resources, who's right, the maturity level of the participants in the conflict, all those factors matter. Okay. So very simple way to sum up how to resolve conflict. I'm not using any technical terms. Very simple understanding of how to resolve conflict. First, when there's a conflicting situation, try not to make it as a relational conflict. Don't take it to a personal level. Okay, if there is a problem between two parties, understand why there is a problem. If it is because of personal issues like perception differences or prejudice, try to resolve it by sitting and talking. If there's a real problem in terms of resource sharing or task related conflict, you need to find solutions. You should not mix personal biases into organizational conflict. 2, empathize. Empathize means when there is conflict, try to understand the problem from the other person's point of view. That person might be wrong, but you see why this person is adamant. You try to understand why this person is keep insisting he is right when obviously this person is wrong. Okay, so try to empathize. Empathize means put yourself in their shoes. Look at the problem from their point of view. Okay. The third important strategy we can use to resolve conflict is listening. So instead of jumping into a conclusion and starting to compete, ask that person what is the problem, or ask that person why they are doing this, or ask that person what do they feel about this problem. Okay, listen to them. And being genuine and open. When there is a conflict in organizational context, try to be open. Tell them, see, this is what it is, this is what I feel, and this is how we can resolve the problem. Okay. And finally, never give up. If there is a conflict, try not to avoid it. If you avoid a conflict, at some point it will become big and it becomes too difficult to handle. So these are some of the simple techniques, simple ways in which you can resolve a conflict. Many of us feel conflict is bad. It's not necessarily bad. Okay, honest differences are good. It's okay to have differences of opinion, differences of priorities, but tolerance is what matters. Okay, so like India, we are a diverse country, but we can coexist if we understand these differences are not competing in nature, but we can embrace those differences and move ahead and proceed. Okay, so it's always better to have conflict rather than a false sense of peace. Okay, so I'll stop here. This is the end of the chapter. In the next chapter, we'll talk about communication as a process, communication as an interpersonal process. Till then, take care. We'll meet in the next lecture.